Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Dr. Paricha. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam. A very good afternoon to one and all. With the blessings of the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, I, Dr. Uma, Professor of Medical Genetics, Anatomy Department, and Principal of Faculty of Allied Health Science, also the member of the Women's Cell, Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth, cordially invite one and all to this webinar on women empowerment. Women empowerment can be defined as to promoting women's sense of self-worth, the ability to determine their own choices, and their right to influence social changes for themselves and others. Here we have three eminent honorable vice chancellors as speakers who are with us to talk about the real essence of women empowerment. Good afternoon, respected speakers. We have with us Dr. B. Vengama, Director, come Honorable Vice Chancellor, SVIMS Tirupati. The second speaker being Dr. Sudha Seshayan, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Tamil Nadu, Dr. MGR Medical University. And the third speaker for the day, Dr. Subhash Chandra Parija, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth. Dear Madam and dear respected sir, we are so happy that we are there onto the session of women empowerment. Now for the first speaker, Dr. B. Vengama. To talk about Dr. B. Vengama, who is a director, come Vice Chancellor, Sri Venkateshwara Institute of Medical Sciences, SVIMS Tirupati. Dr. B. Vengama, the first ever woman director, come Honorable Vice Chancellor of SVIMS since 2009. Dr. Vengama did her DM Neurology at the prestigious NIMHANS, Bangalore, and distinguished herself to be the best outgoing student. Dr. Vengama started the Department of Neurology at SVIMS Tirupati in 1992 and later became the senior professor and head of the department. She teaches the postgraduates in DM Neurology, MCH Neurosurgery, MD Medicine, PhD, and has been an examiner on boards of several prestigious universities, including NIMHANS, Bangalore. She has been an MCI assessor for DM Neurology. She is recognized as an innovative researcher and has several ongoing research projects to her credit. She is also the founder president of Tirupati branch of Indian Epilepsy Association and is the president-elect of the same presently. She is also the recipient of Harish Chandra Bajoria Award for social activities in the field of epilepsy by IEA. She has got Dr. Captain C. Venkayya Memorial Gold Medal Lecture by IMA, Vijayawada, AASM Mini Fellowship Program for International Scholars, and the Ugadi Purashkar Award for the AP state government. Dr. Vengama has a unique distinction of initiating a free epilepsy camp that has provided free anti-epileptic medication to nearly 500% monthly and has been successful running it since then. A very warm welcome, dear madam. We are awaiting for your talk on the topic, the need for women empowerment. Madam, the mic is yours. And we are eager to listen to your talk, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Uma, for that kind introduction. Shall I share the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
It is coming, has failed to start. Please try again. It is coming as a host to disable the screen share.
Just hold on, ma'am. And we are just working on with it. Kindly give the host permission. Ma'am, kindly check once again, ma'am.
It's again coming same. Screen sharing has failed to start. Please error code 105035.
We are working on it, ma'am. We are giving multiple all participants. Ma'am, once again, ma'am. Can you try it again, ma'am?
It's again coming same.
We have made you the co-host, ma'am, and it has also been enabled to all participants. It shows co-host here, ma'am. Or we'll try to change you into host.
No, I don't see. I just have to share screen and share, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, it is showing as a screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again.
We are working on it, ma'am.
Ma'am, can we, ma'am, with the first speaker permission, can we go over to the second speaker so that Vengama ma'am can log out once and you can log in back once again, madam?
I have to log out, okay?
No, what I'm suggesting is if Sudha ma'am is ready, if VC ma'am is ready, we will request.
No problem.
If it is okay for madam, then it's okay for me.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank
Sudha
you,
ma'am,
madam.
Sudha
Thank
ma'am,
Yeah.
we will request Vengama ma'am to log out once and then to
Yeah.
join us back. In the meantime, we can request you ma'am to start your.
Yeah, yeah, I can. I'm also going into the screen share.
Can you try that? Are you having difficulty? No, you are able to share your screen. Vengama ma'am, we are with your permission, with your due permission, we are making Sudha ma'am as the first speaker so that.
Sure. Sure.
Ma'am, you could log out once for all. You can leave and then you can join us back once again, madam. Maybe that way.
Do you get my screen? I suppose it
Yes,
shows
ma'am.
a screen share.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, fine.
I've
I'm
got-
I'm ready.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I just would like to introduce your
Fine,
kind
go
self.
on, go on,
Yes,
please
ma'am.
go on. Yes.
Because we have almost 182 participants and they are eagerly waiting for this wonderful session on behalf of the Women's Cell. I'm so happy and proud, madam, to be connected with you.
Yes, ma'am. Please go on.
And dear all the webinar participants, I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Sudha Seshayan, the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu, Dr. MGR Medical University. Madam was earlier the Director and Professor of Institute of Anatomy in the century-old prestigious Madras Medical College and has an outstanding academic record with a teaching experience of more than 30 years. She also has rich administrative experience, having led various positions, including the post of the Vice Principal of MMC. She pursued a bachelor degree in public administration from Osmania University and also holds a degree in hospital administration from Annamalai University. She has been a member of premier editorial review boards for Gray's Anatomy and continues to be a member of the International Advisory Board for reviewing the publications. Noted for her discourses and has been a great orator in Tamil, she has for a long been a master of ceremonies for various key government events, including the swearing-in function of new governments. She was involved in the preparation of a Tamil lexicon in medicine for the virtual Tamil University. She takes the credit for being the first publishing editor of the translated version of Encyclopedia Britannica in Tamil. Her write-ups in popular Tamil magazines on various spiritually oriented subjects are much sought after. So here we have with us the eminent speaker for the day, Professor Sudha Seshayan, who's here to talk on the topic, women empowerment in Indian context. Ma'am, the mic is yours and we are eagerly awaiting for your talk, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Uma, for that lovely encomium. And Shri M.K. Rajagopalan, the Chancellor of the Shri Balaji Vidyapeeth, most respected Professor Subhash Chandra Parijat, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the SBV, Madam Professor Vengamma, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Sri Venkateshwara Institute of Medical Sciences, Tirupati, my fellow delegates in this webinar, participants from various parts of the country and the world, and all my good friends. It's my privilege to be part of this webinar this afternoon. And with all your permission, let me straight away plunge into the topic that's been given to me. Is my screen viewed? Can someone tell me if the screen is viewed?
Not yet, ma'am.
But I have gone into the
Yeah, we'll just hold on the screen.
Yeah, I think you will have to.
Where is the screen?
Because you came in from there. So,
yes, ma'am. We came in from there.
You came in from your place because by the time I had shared my screen. So I think from there.
Kindly, Chairman, kindly reshare, ma'am, please.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We've got it, ma'am.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. The webinar this afternoon is on women empowerment. But somehow I find that I have been asked to speak on a sub. I have some difficulty. It isn't moving. It isn't moving. Oh, yes, fine. It's come. I have been asked to kind of share some thoughts on a particular area of this webinar, which says women empowerment in the Indian context. I'm a little intrigued by this subtopic. What is so different about women empowerment in the Indian context? And I'm kind of curious to raise a volley of reactive questions. Are Indian women different? Why then should there be a separate area of women empowerment in the Indian context? Or is empowering Indian women a difficult or a different proposition? There is another reaction to that. Do Indian women resist empowerment? And in what way will women empowerment help the Indian society? Before treading further into my given topic, I thought we should take a look into some instances into the lives of some Indian women. So I would go into some anecdotal references with sub-questions here. The first example that I would want to cite is someone who could tell us how can one be empowered at all. This particular woman was the second wife of a sage. And this second wife was asked a question by the husband. The story of their life is quoted in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The husband was sage Yajnavalkya and the wife was Maitreyi. It so happened that Yajnavalkya wanted to renounce everything. And as he was about to renounce, he asked a question as to how much of his property would Maitreyi want. He wanted to apportion his property between the two wives, and he floated this question. Immediately, Maitreyi responded. She asked another question. Instead of directly answering, she raised another question. Syat sarva prithvi bhurna vittena katam tena amritasvyam iti was her question. Freely translated, this question would mean, my dear husband, even if this whole earth full of wealth is given to me, would I become immortal? When the husband said no, she immediately asked him, please educate me. Whatever you know, please educate me. Yadeva Bhagwan Veda Tadeva Me Bruhiti. Whatever you know, whatever wealth of knowledge you have, don't give me the wealth of money, but then whatever wealth of knowledge you have, you please give that to me. So this is one example I would think is the one that would show how can one be empowered. How can empowerment be manifest? And that would be my second anecdote. Those of us in India might have visited a Shiva temple. Pardon me for citing an example related to the temple. I'm not looking at it from the religious perspective, but then I'm looking at it from a slightly different angle. In South India, most of the Shiva temples, if you notice, have a separate shrine for the goddess. The shrine for the goddess is separate from the shrine for the Lord. And then the scriptures tell us the goddess is always with Shiva, at which time she is called the Yoga Shakti, and she is not seen but hidden. There are times when she comes out of him, stays adjacent to himself, and then she is called Bhoga Shakti. Of course, she is not very conspicuous because she is minuscule, just standing next to him. But then when there is a necessity, she separates herself out of Shiva, becomes expansive, bigger and bigger, bold and strong. And then that is when she is Veera Shakti, and she takes a separate shrine for herself. In the screen, you could see the representations for the three. When she is part of the Shiva Linga, she is called the Yoga Shakti. She is in union with him. And then she is standing out separately in a very small form, and that is the Bhoga Shakti. But then if there is a necessity, she takes a Vishwarupa and remains a Veera Shakti. That is how empowerment can manifest itself. Not always will the power will be seen from outside, but then if there is a necessity, the power takes over. How to remain empowered in an adverse situation? This again is another story of an extraordinarily strong woman, a woman who was faced with a life-threatening time. Normally, we tend to say it was a life-threatening situation. But then here was a woman, not necessarily a life-threatening time, but then her husband's life was completely taken away and she had to face an adverse situation. Many of you would have guessed as to whom I'm referring to. I'm talking about Savitri, who had an argument with the god of death to get her dead husband, Satyavan, back. She convinced the god of death. She did not convince an average individual. She did not convince any of her friends. She did not convince someone close to her, but then she had to convince the god of death that her dead husband needs to be revived and given back to her. And she succeeded. Arguing intelligently, she led him into that decision himself that he would give her husband's life back. And we come to the other comprehensive question now: how to innovate and spontaneously implement their own power. And here are women who have done that. I would not go into their lives, but then I suppose you could understand and recognize all of them on the screen: Rani of Jhansi, Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, Krishnamal Jagannathan, and Papa Mal. Krishnamal Jagannathan got the Padma Vibhushan a couple of years ago, and Papa Mal, the centenarian agriculturalist who bagged the Padma Shri Award for the year 2021. Now we come to that crux of the issue: empowerment of Indian women, or women empowerment in the Indian context. What are the areas of significance and the areas of demand that women empowerment in the Indian context would lead us to? Educational empowerment. I believe the Indian women across the length and breadth of this country would have to be educationally empowered. Provide them with academic and research environment. One area that Indian academics is lacking is a congenial research environment, especially for women. Research requires a 24/7 involvement. And it is necessary that we provide a kind of an environment where women will be able to participate at a level playing field. This level playing field can be accorded only by a collective effort put in by academicians, by educationists, by social scientists, by all those who would want women to progress and advance. The second area which has a unique demand as far as Indian women are concerned is the area of psychological empowerment. Generally, women tend to seek extraneous approvals. This is not exclusive of Indian women, but then women across the globe tend to have extraneous approvals. They would want someone to appreciate them, someone to tell them that they're looking nice, someone to say, yes, what you've done is right. But then the extraneous approval is not always available. And that is when a woman kind of shrinks into herself. Given the Indian circumstances, it is likely that this longing for extraneous approval could be more, and it is for all of us to collectively work towards this and try to wean the Indian woman from this longing. It is also true that the Indian woman is internally and emotionally strong. There is some difference between mental strength and emotional intelligence. Many times we tend to think that both mental strength and emotional intelligence are one and the same. My dear friends, they're not one and the same. There is some kind of a subtle difference between the two. Emotional intelligence is part of mental strength. And take it from me, I have been working as a human anatomist for about 35 years of my life. And I can vouchsafe that Indian women are both mentally strong and emotionally self-sufficient. The third area of significance will be social empowerment. We are aware that in the last 400 to 500 years, the Indian socio-political scenario has undergone several metamorphoses. Of course, what was there 300 years ago has been changing slowly, and we do find women are being given equal opportunities. But what women require, the Indian women especially require, is more of encouragement and more of promotion of their capacity. Acceptance of the woman's capability. Permit me to quote my own experience. There are times when women drive on the road, you find the co-driver on the road. If a woman is driving a vehicle and if there is another vehicle adjacent to hers, it is commonplace knowledge that the other vehicle tends to overtake her, primarily because it is a woman who is driving. Now, this is what is irking to the Indian woman as far as the societal scenario is concerned. And it is for all of us to give her the opportunity and the encouragement that she well deserves. Cultural empowerment is something unique to the Indian scenario. The scriptures tell us that women have enjoyed honor and respect, but in the contemporary society, it is necessary that her decisions are regarded and respected, and she is given a thornless path to proceed in the way of her decisions and her liberties. Of course, I would not say all areas related to women empowerment as far as the Indian women scene is concerned have negative points. There are also factors of favor, factors that favor women empowerment in the Indian context. And what are these factors? The Indian women are inherently enduring, probably because they had been oppressed for centuries. They have learned to endure difficulties, and enduring difficulties is a factor of favor as far as empowerment is concerned. When someone gets empowered, it is necessary that the same someone will have to undergo metamorphosis There will definitely be compression because of the power. Power compresses. Someone said power corrupts, but then I would say power compresses, power restricts, and compression and restriction is very easy to be handled if the individual knows endurance. The Indian woman is inherently enduring. She is culturally attuned. She has a long lineage of decision-making and multitasking. Many of you youngsters in the audience, please think of the way your mother or your grandmother would work at home. We generally relate the term multitasking to the computer world or to the business world or to the corporate world. And many of us don't think our own mothers and grandmothers can be corporate. Now, please think of your own mother or even your grandmother. 3, 4 of you would be talking at home. She would be listening to you. She would still be cooking. She would be answering the servant. She would probably be buying something with the vendor. And then she would be answering the telephone call. With all that, she would still be thinking of something that is to be done the next day and ordering for that too. Is that not multitasking? Multitasking need not be only in the corporate world, but then the average Indian woman, even that woman who works in the field, has the inherent capacity of multitasking. This is a favorable feature that Indian women can be empowered much easily. And the most important factor for empowerment and leadership is a kind of effacement. Women are genuinely effacing. By effacing, I mean they make everyone part of their large circle. They would be inclusive, and inclusiveness is something that an empowered person needs to have. Only then there can be a possibility of being empowered to empower. I would only summarize with one single statement to say, women empowerment in the Indian scenario requires collective efforts from all of us. But please do remember, empowering the Indian women will only mean they are empowered to empower others. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That last slide, actually, I'm finding words to talk. The be empowered to empower is the most wonderful thing that I am hearing, madam. A wonderful presentation. Especially you started with a wonderful anecdotal references, ma'am, and that word, educate me. Okay, the wealth of knowledge that is more important than money was beautifully said with the reference. And the various Shakti that you told about the Yoga Shakti, which is hidden and in between coming out, and the Veera Shakti that we are, as a woman are, is a wonderful anecdote, madam. And then the Satyavan Savitri story, even though we knew how a woman could even win over the god of death, was wonderfully said, madam. And the Indian scenario where people or the woman who has really come out and have been shining like a star and was given us the vision also to shine has been beautifully portrayed, madam. And the different kind of empowerment like educational, psychological, social and cultural, madam, it's very nice. And I really admit that women driver story, it still is happening. Whatever it is, I've been facing it, and I agree with you, madam, every time. It's, you know, frankly, I pity the person who's going to overtake me. That much only I'm going to tell. Let's be ourselves, cool and calm the way we are. And the wonderful factors of favors that you spoke, madam, the endurance and the way the women are culturally tuned, the multitasking, which I have seen in you, madam. I think your small reference that I gave in the beginning is very small to a wonderful stature that you are. You are the wonderful multitasking personality that we all have seen. And then that new word of e-facing, that's a new word that I've learned today. The woman, the inclusiveness that you've really spoken about, madam. And the last slide that you showed really made us the day. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for the wonderful talk. I think we'll be having few questions. Maybe we'll take it up in the end, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm waiting to listen to Madam Venkama.
Yes, madam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sudha, madam. And now, madam, another vibrant speaker for the day, Dr. B. Vengama. Madam, we are eagerly awaiting for your wonderful talk. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me start sharing now, whether it will.
Madam, we've got the slide. Shall we share it? No, madam is sharing. Madam is sharing.
It's coming. It has come.
Open.
Ma'am, it's coming. You open your presentation, ma'am. We can see your screen. We can see your entire screen. Please open your presentation, ma'am.
I've opened now.
Close it. I'm not able to see.
I have opened. Here it is opening.
Ma'am, you'll have to go to your presentation, ma'am.
No, now the presentation I have. Okay, I stopped sharing. Now, presentation, should I keep it open earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You keep your presentation open and then
I've done
go
that.
to screen share, ma'am.
Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. We are
Go
able
into
to
the
see.
slideshow, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Slideshow.
ma'am.
It's okay now?
Yeah,
Yes,
wonderful,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Wonderful,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
We can
Great.
see. Good, good.
Okay, sorry for those technical. Good afternoon. And after a wonderful talk by Professor Sudha Sheshaya about the women empowerment in the Indian context, I think I don't know whether I can do justice to compete her, but I'll try my best. The topic given to me was women empowerment, the key to progress. I bring greetings from Sri Venkateshwara Institute of Medical Sciences, Tirupati, and Professor Sudha Seshayan, Professor Subhash Chandra Parija, and then my dear delegates. The global landscape of women empowerment. Basically, the sex, a biological term, gender refers to the roles and the social and economic responsibilities and opportunities that the society and families are assigned to women and men. Gender equality means that men and women have equal power and equal opportunities for financial independence, education, and personal development. The overall improvement of the political, social, economic, and health status of women is highly important and is essential for the achievement of sustainable development. The language of gender equality and women's empowerment was mobilized by feminists in 1980s and 1990s as the way for getting women's rights into the international development agenda. Gender equality and women empowerment is the third of the 8th Millennium Development Goals. Gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. But our world faces a persistent gap in access to opportunities and decision-making power for women and men. Globally, women have a few opportunities for economic participation than men, less access to basic and higher education, greater health, safety risk, and less political representation. Empowering women is essential to health, social development of families, communities, and countries. The full participation and partnership of both women and men is essential in productive and reproductive life. Healthy, educated, empowered women and girls are the agents of change. Women's empowerment is an important goal in achieving the sustainable development worldwide. Over the last few decades, even though there has been a considerable evolution and development in women empowerment, many challenges still persist. Discriminatory laws, social norms remain pervasive. Women continue to be underrepresented at all levels of political leadership. Physical and sexual violence by an intimate partner is still commonplace. As you know, 1 in 5 women and girls between the age of 15 and 49 report experiencing physical or sexual violence by an intimate partner within 12 months period. What is the need for women empowerment? Though women comprise more than 50% of the population, they only own 1% of world's wealth. Throughout the world, women girls perform long hours of unpaid domestic work. In some places, women still lack rights to own land or to inherit property, obtain access to the credit or earn income, or to move up to their workplace free from job discrimination. As you could see from this Global Gender Gap Index 2020, India ranks about 112 and the score is 60.66. When you compare from 2006 to 2020, there's not much of a difference. Especially maybe in education, the rank is better, 102 to 112, it has still fallen down. But maybe slight increase in the score. But when it comes to the economic participation, political empowerment, and health and survival, the rates, the rank has still fallen down compared to previously, though including the scores. That means over the last 1.5 decades, there's not much of a change. Worldwide, women are overburdened with work and lack of power and influence. The women receives less formal education than men, and their societal contributions definitely go unrecognized. To say women scientists and health workers face formidable challenges balancing their personal and professional lives globally. And especially this year theme, this women scientists at the forefront of fight against COVID-19 is the theme for the International Year of Women and Girl Child in Science. As all of you know, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic has clearly demonstrated the critical role of women researchers in different stages of fight against COVID-19, from advancing the knowledge on the virus to developing techniques for testing and finally to create a vaccine against the virus. At the same time, COVID-19 pandemic also had a significant negative impact on the women scientists, particularly affecting those at early stages of their career, and thus contributing to widening the existing gender gap in science, revealing the gender disparities in scientific system, which need to be addressed by the new policies, initiatives, mechanisms to support women and girls in science. At present, less than 30% of the researchers worldwide are women. If you take the examples of Nobel Prize between 1901 and 2020, Nobel Prize in economics and others were awarded to almost 603, 962 persons, of which if you take in the science, 97% are men and only 3% have been the women, especially in the physics, chemistry, physiology, or medicine. And if you divide that first 20 years, only 4, then subsequent is about 5, 3, and then 11 between 1981 to 2000. And last 20, of course, there is some definitely improvement, 28 people got the Nobel Prize. If you see, in 1990, within 2 years after Nobel Foundation was established, Nobel Prize was awarded to woman Marie Curie for the first time. And she has been a distinction of having Nobel Prize twice in 2 different fields, physics and chemistry. And her daughter also got Nobel Prize in 1935 in chemistry. Women have been winning Nobel Prize ever since, but very small numbers compared to the male colleagues. So far, like 48 women have got Nobel Prize in all the fields that account 5%. But if you take to the science, it's only 3% of Nobel Prizes were given in the field of science to the women. Like this is just to get youngsters to know that in the physics, there are only 3 Nobel Prizes were given in physics and 5 in chemistry. And Marie Curie, I think you know all of you, and this last year, 2018, Donna Strickland got laser in physics. Only 3 Nobel Prize winners in physics in the last century, more than that. Marie Curie is the most celebrated world in the world of science, the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize. Albert Einstein told about her that she shunned the publicity. Her life has been one of the sacrifice, simplicity. She is among the most distinguished people and the only woman whom fame had not corrupted. And I to re-emphasize that she is the first woman person to be honored 2 prizes in the 2 different fields. And after a gap of 25 years, her daughter Irene Joliot Curie, along with her son-in-law, also got Nobel Prize in 1935. These are all the people who got Nobel Prize in the chemistry. Only 5 people. And last 2018, 2 people got. And the medicine, like physiology and medicine, so far only 12 people. Just to show the Rita Levi-Montal's in different fields. Unfortunately, last 2020, one in physics and one in chemistry again got to women. Like Emmanuel Carpentier, she got for development of method of genomic editing. If you see like this, like there is only so much, though it was started for a woman very early, but the progress to this in the science field is very less. Why is this? Is there anything understanding difference between thinking of right side brain or anything like what madam was already telling, women's capacity to just understand the 2 cerebral hemispheres? As all of you know, the right side focuses on creativity as well as the spatial task, music, and the left side more important onto the logic. And basically the left side brain functions towards the analytical thought and mathematics, science, and logic, and the right side is emotional thought and intuitive thought. But if you understand the male and female brain, the new way of showing the connectivity called connected to maps reveal the significant differences between the men and women. Typical male brain, most connections run between the front and back parts of the same brain hemisphere, which could account for a better spatial skills and motor control in men. And in contrast, the typical female brain, many more neural connections go from side to side across the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Scientists say this could account for women's better verbal skills and intuitive abilities. Women have more connections between right and left side of the brains, which allows for a more holistic way of processing information. They easily ping back forth between the intuition and verbal reasoning and then make a decision. Men have a stronger connection between the visual centers in the brain and executive areas in the frontal lobe. That's why they are more likely to respond impulsively. There is a big difference in the brain structure, gray matter, between men and women. Women have more white matter, for instance. That stuff connects various parts of the brain. The blood flow to the regions critical for emotional intelligence is higher for women than for men, suggesting that's why women tend to score higher in these emotional aspects, what madam was already mentioned. In fact, that women are faster and more accurate at identifying emotions, for instance, and as mentioned, women are more multitasking. Like anatomically also 10% larger than male brain than the female brain. More neurons in the cerebral cortex and larger hypothalamus helps regulate the biological drives. In contrast, in a female brain, more dendritic connections between the cells than men, larger corpus callosum, greater use of both hemisphere processing information. To summarize, basically male brain predominantly hardwired understanding and building systems, and female brain for predominantly hardwired for empathy. value more for power, politics, competition of a male brain, and value development of reciprocal relationship of a female brain. When listening to neurons on only one side of the brain are activated in men, and in the same way, interpretation of whole sentence, men use only one side of the brain. In contrast, while listening to neurons on both sides of the brain are activated, in interpretation, women use both sides of the brain. Maybe you are wondering why I'm trying to tell this difference. I think as a woman, we should know these differences and we should try to come out of these things and try to develop. That's why women empowerment transformed the world. Equal rights for men and women are enriched under the Article 14 and 16 in Indian Constitution, which came to effect on 26th of January 1950. India was the second country in the modern history to have a female leader, Indira Gandhi, in 1966 after another South Asian state, Sri Lanka, elected Sirimavo Bandaike in 1960. Within the country, Dowry Prohibition Act 1961 and Protection of Women and Domestic have been enacted to criminalize the instances of dowry and domestic violence. The government also increased maternity leave from 12 weeks to 26 weeks under Maternity Benefit Act in 2017. The national policy of empowerment of women was in 2001. The principle of gender equality is enshrined in Indian Constitution and its preamble, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and directive principles. The Constitution not only grants equality to women, but also empowers the state to adopt measures of positive discrimination in favor of women. The National Commission for Women was set up by Act of Parliament in 1990 to safeguard the rights and legal entitlements of the women. The goal of this policy is to bring about advancement, development, and empowerment of women. The policy will widely disseminated so as to encourage the active participation of all stakeholders for achieving the goals. The goals and objective of this commission are creating an environment through positive economic and social policies for full development of women to enable them to realize their full potential, the de jure and de facto enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom by women on equal basis with men in all spheres, political, economic, social, cultural, and civil, equal access to participation and decision-making of women in social, political, economic life of a nation, equal access to women to health care, quality education, level, career, vocational guidance, employment, equal remuneration, occupational health and safety, social security, and public office, etc. Strengthening legal systems aimed at elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, changing the societal attitudes and community practices by active participation and involvement of both men and women, mainstreaming a gender perspective in the developing process, elimination and discrimination and all forms of violence against women and the girl child, building and strengthening the partnership with civil society, particularly women's organization. Women empowerment is a critical aspect of achieving gender equality. It includes in women's sense of self-worth, her decision-making power, her access to opportunities, resources, her power and control over her own life inside and outside the home, and her ability to effect change. Yet, gender issues are not focused on women alone, but the relationship between the men and women in the society. The actions and attitude of men and boys plays an essential role in achieving the gender equality. The three components, I think one of which is already mentioned, madam. Education is the key area of the focus. Second is the women's health and safety is an important area. And the third is the women's economic and political empowerment. Three-dimensional models of women empowerment, basically micro-level dimension referring to individual personal beliefs as well as actions where personal empowerment can be observed. Meso-level dimension referring to beliefs as well as actions in relation to relevant and other where relational empowerment can be observed. Macro-level dimension refer to outcomes in broader societal context where societal empowerment can be observed. Steps to eliminate inequalities between men and women is reached to women empowerment. First, you have to establish the mechanisms for women's equal participation and equitable representation at all levels of political process and public life in each community and society, enabling the women to articulate their concerns and needs, promoting the fulfillment of women's potential through education, skill development, employment, giving paramount importance to elimination of poverty, illiteracy, ill health among women, eliminating all practices that discriminate against women, assisting women to establish and realize their rights, including those that relate to reproductive and sexual health. Adopting appropriate measures to improve women's ability to earn income beyond traditional occupations, achieve economic self-reliance, and women's equal access to labor market and social security system. Most important, eliminating violence against women, eliminating discriminating practices by employers against women, such as those based on the contraceptive use, making it possible through laws, regulation, other appropriate measures for women to combine the roles of a childbearing, breastfeeding, child rearing with the participation in the workforce. Women's empowerment and promoting women's rights have part of the major global movement and continue to break new ground in the recent years. Achieving a change requires a policy program actions that will improve women's access to secure livelihood and economic resources, remove legal impediments to their participation in public life, and raise social awareness through effective programs of education and mass communication. Decision making, also women's equality in power sharing, active participation in decision making, including decision making in political process at all levels, will be ensured for the achievements of goals of empowerment. As per UNA Global Compact and UN Women Empowerment, there are 7 principles used to empower women in marketplace, workplace, and community. First is create a high-level corporate leadership for gender equality. Treat all people fairly at work, respecting, supporting non-discrimination and human rights. Ensure the health, well-being, safety of all workers, whether male or female. Promote education, training, professional development for women. 5. Implement supply chain, market practices, enterprise development that empower women. Champion equality through community initiatives and advocacy. Measure and report publicly on progress to create gender equality. Policies and programs and systems will be established to ensure mainstream of women's perspective in all developmental processes as catalysts, participants, and recipients. Wherever there are gaps in policies and programs, women-specific intervention would be undertaken to bridge these. Most important is the poverty eradication. Since women comprise the majority of the population below the poverty line and are very often in situations of extreme poverty, given the harsh realities of intra-household and social discrimination, macroeconomic policies and poverty eradication program will specifically address the needs and problems of such women. Microcredit, in order to enhance women access to credit for consumption and production, establishment of new and strengthening existing microcredit mechanisms, microfinance institutions will be undertaken so that the outreach of credit is enhanced. Women's perspectives will be included in designing, implementing macroeconomic and social policies by institutionalizing their participation in such process. Most important, education. Equal access to the education for women and girls will be ensured. Special measures will be taken to eliminate discrimination, universalize education, eradicate illiteracy, create gender-sensitive educational system, increase enrollment and retention rates of girls, and improve the quality of education to facilitate lifelong learning as well as the development of occupation, vocational, technical skills by women. Other important aspect is the health, the holistic approach to women health, which includes both nutrition and health services will be adopted, and special attention will be given to the needs of women and girls at all stages of their life cycle. The reduction of infant mortality and maternal mortality, which are sensitive indicators of human development, is a priority concern. In view of the high risk of malnutrition and diseases that women face at all three critical stages, that is infancy, childhood, adolescent, and reproductive phase, focus attention would be paid to meeting the nutritional needs of the women at all stages of life cycle. There is also important in view of the critical link between the health of the adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating women with the health of infant and young children. Programs will be in the field of science and technology. Programs will be strengthened to bring about the greater involvement of women in science and technology. They include measures to motivate the girls to take up science and technology for higher education and ensure that the development projects with the scientific and technical inputs involve the women fully. In the judicial system, will be made more responsive and gender sensitive to women needs, especially in case of domestic violence and personal assault. New laws will be enacted and existing laws reviewed to ensure that the justice is quick and the punishment meted out to the culprits is commensurate with the severity of the offense. At the initiative of and full participation of stakeholders, including community and religious leaders, policy would be aimed to encourage changes in personal laws such as those related to marriage, divorce, maintenance, guardianship, so as to eliminate the discrimination against the women. I think government of India has many women empowerment schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme, one-stop center scheme, women helpline, all these Indian national programs. I think my next speaker is going to speak, and Nirbhaya, all those programs are there. Over the last 2 decades or 3 decades, there are some notable gains. Women in India are emerging in all sectors, including politics, business, medicine, sports, and agriculture. As you know, the history was made when 2 female scientists, that is M. Vanitha and K. Ritu, one Indian Space Organization led the country's second lunar Chandrayaan-2 from its inception to the completion in 2019. Female leadership for a huge space mission challenged the meta-narrative rocket science is a professional reserved for a man. Another milestone was reached when Supreme Court upheld the government position on the women serving as army commanders in 2020. Women were the first introduced into armed force in 1992, have served in multitude of positions, including fighters, pilots, doctors, nurses, engineering signal. While the issue of women serving in combat roles continues to be a contentious on worldwide, these are all the instances where Indian women have overcome the glass ceiling in the armed forces. To conclude, women empowerment enhances their decision-making capacity at all levels in all spheres of life, including area of sexuality and reproduction. Policymakers should act to empower women and should take the steps to eliminate the gender equality. Establishing the mechanisms for women equal participation and equitable representation at all levels of political process, public life, thereby enabling the women to express their concerns and needs. Promoting the fulfillment of women's potential through education, skill development, and employment. Eliminate the discriminatory practices against the women, facilitating them to establish and realize their rights. Adopting the appropriate measures to improve the woman's ability to earn income beyond the traditional occupations, achieving the economic self-reliance. Making it possible through laws, regulations, and other appropriate measures for women to combine the roles of a child rearing, breastfeeding, child rearing with the participation in the workforce, eliminating the discriminatory practices by the employers against the women. I think this is all everybody know. Yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatra devataha yatretrastu na pujyante sarvaha sarvastatra afalaha kriya. That means where women are honored, divinity blossoms there, and where they are dishonored, all the actions remains unfruitful. Let us all strive to evolve as such for such society. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. I think all the women needs to be honored so that we can pave way to live in an honored society too. And I agree with you, madam, that earlier you quoted that women have been given less opportunity. I think women are still struggling in the rural areas in spite of all the activities that the government are taking. And I'm surprised that the global gender gap index since 1.5 decades have been no changes. I agree with you, madam. Being a working woman, the work-life balance also, I think we need to work upon it. And the wonderful quote that you gave about the reference to the Nobel Prize, madam, I don't think so many of the people could understand that it is once again seems to be a male dominated. But I have a 3% only woman and 5% overall seems to be not a good strategy. But then I think all women are champions, and your different anecdotes, I mean, the lines that you quoted about how the steps we need to eliminate the inequalities between man and woman is very much taken, madam, especially the neural connections that you gave, why women are multitasking, and that picture that you showed, a man thinking of just one knife and a woman thinking about many types of knives, then it could really understand that women are using both sides of the hemisphere, of the brain's hemisphere is wonderful, madam, and thank you so much. So I think all of us, the woman needs to have an equality, and all this needs to come into practice, and it should really penetrate into each and every individual, either being a male or a female. I think all of us need to work on this particular strategy. Thank you so much, madam, for your wonderful talk. I think we'll take up the questions in the end. And we have now the third speaker of the day, Professor Subhash Chandra Parija, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth. To talk about Sir is an eminent academician, an erudite microbiologist, and an avid researcher, a keen votary of medical education, and an able administrator. Sir is a former director, JIPMA, Pondicherry. Sir has authored 16 books and 400 research papers at national and international journal. FAO WHO expert member on foodborne parasite disease is a wonderful thing that Sir has been, and has also received Dr. B.C. Roy National Award, MCI in the year 2003 for his contribution to the development of medical microbiology. Sir is a founder of the Indian Academy of Tropical Parasitology. Sir has been conferred with various fellowships that includes FAMS, FABM, FIMSA, and many more. Sir holds 2 patents to his credit. Sir, we are eagerly awaiting for your talk on government support and initiative for empowering Indian women. Sir?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. Esteemed Vice Chancellors, Professor Shudha Seshayan, Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu, Dr. MGR Medical University, esteemed Professor B. Vengama, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sri Venkateswara Institute of Medical Science, Tirupati, and my colleague, Professor Uma, Principal Allied Health Sciences, SBV, and all dear participants for this today's webinar program on women empowerment. I must congratulate the previous 2 speakers for sharing their valuable thoughts. Professor Shudha Seshayan sharing very interesting introspection and analysis of women empowerment in Indian context, along with spirituality. Really, I enjoyed. I think all of us also would have enjoyed. Again, I congratulate Professor Vengama for thoughtfully analyzing. She's a neurologist of eminence. So she did an interesting study of neurological analysis of the brain of the men and women. Nevertheless, having a scientific analysis of the various activities for men and women. I congratulate Madam for thoughtfully sharing many of these activities on the need for women empowerment. Actually, now my job has been very much easier because Professor Vengama has already listed various activities that has been carried out for government support and initiatives for empowering Indian women. So I'll take 10 to 15 minutes just to illustrate and little elaborate on these activities. That is, government support and initiative for empowering Indian women. So today, when we talk about women empowerment, it refers, as rightly told by my predecessors, to increase the social, political, spiritual, and economic strengths of individuals and communities. As a general definition, empowerment is a multidimensional process that helps people get control over their own life. This component has been amply illustrated by Professor Sudha Sesyan when she was discussing with reference to different forms of empowerment, women empowerment, pertaining to social empowerment, academics, and all these activities. Hence, what we understand by women empowerment, as my predecessor said, it means it is the process and the outcome of the process by which women challenge gender-based discrimination in every institutions and structures of the society. It means, as language understandable to common public, it means freedom of women from the vicious grips of social, economic, political, or gender-based discriminations. It means empowerment, rights to the women with reference to social rights, political rights, economic stability, judicial strength, and all over. And coming about the one of the component, social rights or political rights, as Madam Vengama has nicely mentioned, clearly analyze with one interesting example of the Nobel laureate in last so many years. It has positive point is that though it is less, but it reflects that there is increasing number of Nobel laureates over the period of years, even field of science, and that has been done effectively. And every government, here and outside, they are making all the efforts possible to empower the women so that they get their due rights activities in all the fields of life. I just like to quote Swami Vivekananda. He mentioned there is no chance of the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved. And that reflects what Professor Vengama has told in last slide. If women are honored and respected, then the world prospers. If women are not honored, nothing becomes fruitful, hence world does not suffer. So this is the essence of our thinking, teaching in our ancient India since ages. Now, with this progression of the society, India is now in transition stage in knowledge century area. Hence, a knowledge-driven generation will be an asset, either male or female, both together, for the progress and development of the country, development of the nations in all the domains: academics, economics, or science and other fields. Hence, to achieve and sustain high growth rates, access in education, hence should be open for entire population without any discriminations. And since, in particular, women are the dynamic promoter of social transformations, hence their empowerment and education is a must. No second thought about that. The more the empowerment, the more will contribute to educations and directly in social transformations. Now, what I'm trying to say is some specific examples how Indian laws are being tried to implement without any discrimination against women. Hence, that has been reflected with more and more women participating in societal, so-called political, or in the field of education science, though it has not achieved to its full extent. And as my previous speakers have told, any profession you name now, either medicine, civil administrations, politics, or defense service, women are slowly occupying their rightful place. As Professor Vengama rightly told, the classical example last this law 2020, in which our government of India has allowed women to go for the join even for because of that combat force of specific systems which have not been done even elsewhere. Women have also achieved high frame in the area of literature, music, and acting, and more women over are joining the field of science and technology. I think this webinar is a classical example in which we have 3 vice chancellors, 2 are women, and they're heading the most prestigious universities of the country. That reflects growth and development of women empowerment in the country that will take more and more in future. When we think of a government, because it is the government who should play a most important role in women empowerment, the progressive contemporary society is profoundly backed by the government, both central and state governments in India, that vehemently aspires for a society which is forward-looking, bias-free, and radical thinking. Every authority, every act that has been introduced yearns to have a reformist visions. As she has given few large, just for the sake of completion, I like to mention some of the large that has been started post-independent, like Special Marriage Act 1954, Hindu Marriage Act 1955, Adoption Act 1956, Immoral Traffic 1956, Dowry Provision 1961, and the Maternity Benefit Act 1961, and Medical Termination of Pregnancy 1971, Equal Remuneration 1976, National Commission on Women 1990, Provision of Child by 2006, Sexual Harassment of Women and Workers. All these acts, if we analyze, has been focusing to mitigate the problems of women during the last many decades, to address their issues and to give a solution for basic upliftment and empowerment in the community. Now, why so many acts, why so many things have improved? Because this all in principle is directed at various components. First, it gives a self-defining power to the women. It encourages their creativity, beliefs, develops and promotes self-confidence in their physical strength. And the most important is the sense of equality. Women is no less than to the men in any activities. Of course, by all these activities, it fosters strong mutuality in relationship and gives a sense of economic independence that was missing in decades and back, and having political power in society. As Professor Vengama has nicely mentioned, our respected Indira Gandhi, one of the prime ministers, first lady prime ministers after Sri Lanka. So this reflects the sense and progressions in the women empowerment. For an Indian woman and citizen, freedom does not just mean those guaranteed under the constitution like acts, but it means another component is more and more opportunity, because they are not given earlier. This should provide more and more opportunity for educations, progression in their jobs, opportunities for entrepreneurships, day-to-day living, and protection of the girl child. In short, the road to women's empowerment has several milestones, dotting factors that's to be connected. To ensure women are empowered, the government and the public sector obviously play an important role to enable their welfare in various sectors, whether it's providing free cooking gas or education scheme for enabling women to leverage technology. Is plethora of schemes that have been launched in recent years to empower, to be independent economically as well in their lives. That really contributes to the women empowerment. All these contribute for equality, for equal rights in their livings. So the current scenario, one of the first steps toward the empowerment is ensuring there are enough financial cases, because women in a bad and toxic relationship feel stuck and helpless because they have no financial independence. So that is the main policy of the government, to remove the stumbling blocks of economic dependence. India government has recognized women's contribution to country's economy, has introduced schemes and initiatives. Just to mention few, which are already elaborated, Mahila Hi Hat is most recent a digital component, a direct online marketing platform launched by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. This scheme is made to support women entrepreneurship as a part of digital initiatives. They can sell their products online. It's a marketing. Many services provided by Mahila Hat is facilitating direct contact with the vendors and buyers, sensitizations, advocacy, training, packing, and soft intervention workshops, and offering a web-based approach. This scheme, open to all Indian women above the age of 18, offers an each sign-in process and convenient payment methods. Everything can be handled in mobile with no other intervention required. The portal claims to have attracted 17 lakh visitors since its launch, and features over 2,000 products and services across 18 categories from 24 states, all by women entrepreneurs. This is a big social change that has been made in this 21st century, which is basing more and more on digital technology. Another classical example is Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Educate Girls, that was launched in 2015, aims to generate awareness and also improve the efficiency of welfare services for the girl child. The initial aim of the campaign was to address the declining child sex ratio, but now has come to include gender-biased sex selective eliminations and propagating educations, surviving and protecting the girl child. And most important thing is Sukanya Samruddhi Yojana. Many of us, for our daughters, granddaughters, would have added this Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. One account is open, and parents, the minimum amount is deposited into it, and for after 21 years. They get a benefit with interest of 8.6%. Another interesting scheme is one-stop center scheme. It's popularly known as SAKI. It was implemented in 2015. This includes one-stop centers established at various locations all over the country to provide legal, medical, counseling service to victims of violence, either domestic or other violence, under one roof, integrated with 24-hour helpline. This aims to improve the quality of the life. And another examples, all of us who have experience and know working women hostels, particularly in the urban or semi-urban, even rural areas where I have the opportunity to work, but does not have a distant place to work. This opportunity gives the women hostels for them. Another, most importantly, is empowerment is STEP, support to training and employment program for women. It exists to provide skills that gives employability to women and to provide competencies and skills that enable to women become self-employed, entrepreneur, self-funding, and sustainable activities. Like the many examples are there. Another program by the government of India, Nari Shakti Puraskars, that are national level awards that are given to the recognizing women and institutions that makes a difference in women's lives, especially vulnerable and marginalized women. Awards are presented by the President of India every year on International Women's Day. All these activities are being carried out to motivate, to encourage the individuals, organizations that fights for the cause of women. In conclusion, women empowerment supported by government and actively implemented to many extent is showing its result, though it needs more stronger effort in future. Because it's happening every institute, every universities, in our universities. We have been creating the processes, mechanisms for women empowerment. We have been encouraging the women faculties for better opportunities, job opportunities. Just to give a few examples, 30% of the senior administrative jobs in the universities are by women. The moderator, Dr. Uma, she is principal of Allied College, women. Principal of Nursing College is women. And our many senior administrators are women. We do believe in women empowerment. And coming at education, in our student portfolio, if we analyze, we'll find 50% of students are girls. It means we do believe in empowerment. Give best education to children, best education to women. They'll contribute more. And this is one of the most women empowerment is the most important component which our university SBV is encouraging. And at every component, we are creating opportunity more and more for women under this women empowerment. I think each and every universities, even Tirupati, all of the university, they will be following, and where any university you go, institute you go, will find that they and we do belong to a country, rich cultural traditional country, where women are given most respect, even they identify as mother goddess. This is the value they have been given, and obviously we have to, through women empowerment, will continue, will increase for more such activities for women empowerment, for all-round developments of the family, of the society, of the institutions, and country as a whole. Because it is the women empowerment that really responsible for all that. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Again, I congratulate my today's speakers, Professor Vengaman, Professor Session, for agreeing to be with all our activities. And I always, with regard to webinar vice chancellors, and when you selected this topic, I told my organizers, we must have distinguished vice chancellors of distinguished universities to represent and to speak, and that their career, their profession, as Dr. Susan Mason saying, everybody should study as a role model. Every girl should study as a role model to come out in their profession, as she has rightly mentioned, Dr. Vengama, how they are balanced in their personal life and professional life, particular healthcare sectors, and come off. This is a great example, and I'm very thankful to my colleague, Professor Uma, very dynamic, very active, important manpower in my universities, who has been contributing to the cause of the university growth and development. All of you are examples of women empowerment. Why I'm still vocal? Because I've got a little personal interest. I have two daughters, and I see when I've educated them, that was a classical examples how women empowerment was started in the family, so that they are what they are because of efforts and activities. It will be the same for all this in future. Thank you. Thank you very much for the questions.
Thank you so much, sir. I wanted to tell that we have a wonderful, honorable Vice Chancellor, and I wanted to quote that whenever sir talks about women, sir remembers his two daughters. I wanted to quote his two wonderful daughters, and every essence of the woman SBV women cell here, we really fly high, dear speakers. I have to tell that sir has always been behind the back of the women's cell, and we've been contributing so much. It's only because of the wonderful person behind us or in front of us, whichever around us, is our honorable Vice Chancellor. Thank you so much, sir. And you said, yes, India, Mother Goddess, India, Nam Thai Nadu. And I was very happy to read the first part of your slide. There is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. Sir, yes. And when Swami Vivekananda quoted that the condition of women should be improved, and only this will lead to the welfare of the world, is another important quote that I think all the people here needs to take it up. And it's very nice that you have highlighted the various Indian acts since 1960, which actually is setting a stage for the excellent power bestowed on women, so that all of us feel empowered in all walks of our lives, sir. And it's the first time I know a couple of schemes and initiatives, but today, this you spoke upon, sir. I think all the women or all the girls around need to know about all these schemes and initiatives so that they can also come up very much in their lives, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It has been a very wonderful session of yours. And I think I'll just need to find out if there's any questions around. Can we have the question and answer session? Anybody needs to ask any questions? I think honorable Vice Chancellors, all three of them will be there to answer the query. Or if there's anything in the chat box. There's no question in the chat box. Well, at this moment, I would like to state that if anybody has any queries and individually it needs to be addressed, kindly put it in the chat box. It'll be sent to the respective Vice Chancellors, and maybe you'll be getting an answer out of it. I think with this, with the permission of the three honorable Vice Chancellor, I think we can go, I can propose the vote of thanks. And it has been a wonderful session today. And I really feel very much honored, and I'm very proud that I'm a woman here seated and with the distinguished speakers around us. I thank Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth, Professor Subhash Chandra Parija, and the two invited eminent speakers, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sudha Seshayan, as well as Dr. Vengama, for having given such a wonderful talk and enlightening us about the topic on women empowerment. I thank one and all for having attended the session. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Sudha ma'am. Thank you, Vengama And ma'am, and thank you, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth, for making this session a great one. And it has been a real mesmerizing session for me as individual, as a woman. I've learned a lot from this session too. Thank you. I think with this, we can close the session with the permission.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank
Parija.
you very much,
Thank you.
Professor Parija. Thank you very much, Professor Uma. And thanks everyone. Thank you very much, madam.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's nice.